9:38. Let's head into the KUAM News Zoom room where the public auditor, BJ Cruz, is standing by. Good morning, public auditor.
Good morning. Did you talk to the superintendent about the masks?
We didn't get to bring that up, but were there some concerns, public auditor? Are you hearing about the masks?
I've gotten calls that the masks that they gave the kids are the cheapest masks that you can find.
Ooh,
Okay, well, we'll look
like
in.
super
And
flimsy.
They don't even adjust. They don't fit on the kids. It just falls right off their face.
Also,
And
they're
not
like,
all kids have parents that can buy them masks that'll fit.
well, good concern. We'll bring it up.
Thanks for the tip.
Yeah, there was so much going on with the superintendent and just trying to play catch up with a lot of these parental issues that we didn't get around to that.
Is that something though that
I may want to do.
yeah?
Some parents are coming by and bringing the mask by, and so I may decide to do a procurement audit. An audit on the procurement of them to determine how they got such poor quality and how much was paid for it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask if you were going to be looking at the procurement, not just of the masks, because they've been procuring a whole bunch of other stuff. So do you have pictures of these masks?
No,
Okay.
I was told I was going to be brought by yesterday, and then I was supposed to pick it up this morning, and they knocked it up, and so I don't have it.
Okay.
What other audits are you?
Without kids.
Yeah, what other audits are you anticipating, BJ?
We're still working on the audits that we've been working on for months, but we're on hold because Revenue and Taxation is told us they can't get the information to us until the end of the month.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get any response based on your audit you did on the hot mess procurement at the beginning of the pandemic? I know that there's been a lot of action on that audit. We've got a couple senators, I think, have written to the AG. Have you heard from the AG?
No. Nope. So I texted you last night.
Okay. So what did you make of Senator Frank Blas Jr.? I think he wrote about a couple letters, right?
Yeah.
To the AG. Basically, I mean, I want to say in his second one, he pretty much called for the appointment of like an independent counsel to kind of examine. Is that, I mean, just, coming from the public auditor side, is that the protocol for this type of incident?
Well, if the Attorney General feels he's conflicted and needs to recuse, then they will have to, in the same way that they did it with, remember the Highsmith case?
Mm.
They appointed special counsel to do the investigation and the prosecution in that case.
I saw also that your staff had completed ethics training.
Yeah. And tonight we start our class on procurement ethics. Thankfully, the Policy Council has decided to make that the 5th module.
Tell us a little bit about that. Who's going to be going and who has to go?
Okay.
Yeah, Nate, tell us about it.
Oh, you mean my? No,
Yeah, I don't know about it. I can't tell you about it.
Am I on now?
Yeah, we're on. Hello.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
thought you were always waiting.
No, we're here. Yeah, this is it. Oh, wait, that wasn't the real BJ? That wasn't, I thought we were getting BJ.
Okay, and take 2.
Okay, so anyway, what did you think? Did you get any response from the AG?
No.
Okay.
Nothing.
Okay, same answer. Tell us
Do
a
you
little
think
bit.
something should be done
Go
though? Do you
ahead.
think the AG should move forward with something, whether it's a special independent investigator, prosecutor, to look into this, or just Your report's
I'm
done.
not sure exactly what needs to be done with that. I mean, we pointed it out as a question cost of $3 million for that whole first procurement. They learned, and though they insist that we were wrong, the second and third procurements used the proper people and went through at least part of the proper procedure in procuring the hotels for the second and third round. So at least they learned from the first one, or they realized that they shouldn't have done it. Whether or not that needs to be followed up depends on the Attorney General whether or not it was intentional or whether it was exigent. I don't know. That's going to have to be his investigation, not mine. I pointed it out and I found it to be a question cost.
So how about that training?
The legislature had a hearing on a bill. I can't even remember the number now. But anyway, it's going to be required that all GovGuam employees take ethics classes, which is in line with something that I've been talking about and wanting to push since I took this position, was everybody understanding their ethical obligations. And so the legislature passed, can't remember the public law now. Anyway, that requires that all GovGuam employees attend ethics class at some point within 6 months of their employment or 36 months of if they're incumbent employees. Well, I felt that we should lead the movement since, and so we contacted the University of Guam and they set up a class for us. And so all 14 of us here at the office spent 4 hours one morning with Vince Camacho taking the same procurement class that he teaches to the directors and to the senators. And then also, to the credit of, I guess, the administration or at Adelup or at GCC, the Procurement Policy Council, I guess, made a recommendation that a fifth module be added to the procurement modules. And the fifth module is a module on procurement ethics, which is just, I guess, this kind of devoting the next 5 weeks of classes.
Was that just coincidence, BJ, or is that as a result of your audit, which found that there may have been some ethical concerns?
Well, it was a recommendation. The Policy Council always been in law for like the last 20 years. It hasn't met that I know of. But the university at GCC, to its credit, I guess, has heard some of the opinions that I've had and some of the not so much directives that I've issued, but some of the advisories that I have to send out from this office of ethics, procurement ethics, and not receiving or accepting even de minimis things from vendors. And so a couple of weeks ago, they announced that they were going to, Anthony Camacho, who's a legal counselor at the university, but teaching this class for GCC and used to be the hearing officer for procurement appeals here at the public auditor's office. He's teaching a class for the next 5 weeks, Tuesday and Thursday nights. It's an hour and a half each for 5 weeks. And it's going to be just on procurement ethics. And it's just going to discuss all the ethics laws surrounding procurement and government employment. So it'll be good. tonight's the first night, so I have a long night. When you wanted me to get up at 7 o'clock this morning, I said I wasn't going to be ready because I'm going to be here at the office until 7 o'clock tonight.
Well, thank you for joining us, BJ. I wanted to ask with this, I don't know if you're tracking at all this American Rescue Plan situation where Adeloop has said that had said that they couldn't spend any of the money until these guidances come out. Just on your end, because I know you do get a lot of guidance as far as like the auditing. Outside looking in, did that hold true for you? That because we didn't know what to make of it because other places were spending the money already and we weren't, so it was just a little confusing.
I'm always more conservative, and so in the last time I was on your show, I told you that to their credit, they could and should wait. The other day, I guess it was sometime last week. Treasury sent out OMB's compliance report. All the agencies that receive above $750,000 of federal funds have to do a single audit with the external auditors. And so they sent out their compliance manual on what the external auditors should look at when they're doing these audits. And yesterday I sent in my reply to them because they wanted to know my comments of the draft that had been received, that had been sent out. And my comment to them was, I don't know why you're bothering having us do these single audits when they adopted that same matrix. Remember I sent you guys a few months ago? That matrix that showed the 12 things that you should look at, but then for CARES, that you didn't need to look at certain things, like you didn't need to look at cash management, you didn't need to look at procurement, you didn't need to look at eligibility. I thought for sure that the compliance audit that came out last week would say that you have to start looking at all 12 of these things, which is the way that used to be. It came out with the same matrix. And I'm like, then why are we bothering? I mean, spending all that money and all that time looking at it, but don't bother to look at procurement, don't bother to look at cash management, and don't bother to look at eligibility. It's senseless. So that was my comment. It was a very short comment. I'm sure they're going to love hearing that from me. But the other thing that I understand is, like all governments, there's warring between the departments. And these were the guidance that was sent out by OMB. But part of the problem is that the federal departments in Washington can't agree among themselves. OMB is fighting with Treasury, and Justice is coming into some things. And it's like somebody decide who's in charge and issue one set of guidance. Don't have one department say one thing and then take it back because another department says a different thing. That's what's driving everybody crazy. And so if I were in charge, I would also wait until I could see what the something absolutely in writing that I could say, I'm going to hang my hat on this, and I'm not going to do anything with a draft that's been sent out. I want something signed in blood by somebody that you're not going to back up on me, So, but then again, I'm more cautious in that. So I understand.
Yeah. Let me ask you though,
if you get burned once, you shouldn't get burned twice.
Right. You're a former speaker of the legislature, and this whole debate now that's going on, this back and forth between the legislature and the governor's office, with the governor basically saying, stay in your lane. If you guys want to do a budget, do it with GovGuam revenues. You're not touching my ARP money. I'm sure the senator submitted a plan at the governor's request as well. saying, "Hey, this is where
Well-
we think some of this money should go." I'm just curious because knowing that you're a former speaker, I don't think that you would just like play along and be like, "Okay." I just couldn't see that happening. So, what's your take on
no, you're right. As a speaker, I probably would fight back and say that you have to include us. But then also the other side of me that looks at, what was the legislative history? As I understand it, the legislative history of the ARP was that there were attempts to put into the legislation provisions to include the legislatures in the in this whole process, but it was that amendment was not taken up. So I'd have to then also realize that when I look at legislative history, that the legislative history was that the Congress entertained an amendment to have the legislatures of the states and territories involved in it, but for some reason they gave it all to the governors. I don't understand it, but that's what as I understand, the legislative history is. Mm-hmm. And so I would have to accept that.
Mm-hmm. I did want to ask, have you heard anything or have any updates on where DOA is on this emergency procurement of a financial management system? I mean, Mr. Byrne was pretty adamant that they needed this, you know, because we've got all this federal money.
That was in December of last year.
Yeah,
that was in December of last year. That was 9 months ago.
Kind of around the time the RISE Act was.
Yeah.
It still hasn't been done. Yeah. They have that I know of, because I had entrance. I'm trying to get the audits, the financial audits out on time next year. So I've been doing entrance conferences with all of the audit departments early this month. I've been doing them this past several weeks, and I'll be doing it throughout the month of August. And they're all shocked that I'm doing it so early. And I'm going, wait a minute, it's not early. You have auditors, and I want to know that you're doing things, I'm not going to wait until October and November, and I want you to start now. So I'm pushing them. And I from what I understand, it's that the system isn't in. And the other thing that I learned, and I don't imagine that he would object to my telling it, I asked Mr. Byrne if he hired all the auditors, accountants that the last financial audit recommended. You remember reading that. I think I pointed it out to you. Yeah. That was the first finding that the auditors found, that there's need for professional, technical people who understand accounting to be in charge of the operations at the Department of Administration. They not only need a system, but they need the technical professionals that are there to do it. And his response to me was, they've not been able to hire because I didn't realize this, but I kind of remember it being mentioned. But he reminded me that the legislature in the last budget cut $700,000 from the budget of the Department of Administration. And so consequently, they weren't able to hire the accountants and the the CPAs. I mean, they need a CFO. They weren't able to do it, and I just lost it at the meeting last week.
Did you flip the table?
Yeah, I violated all the rules that I tell my staff to be good to your auditee, and I was I raised my voice and I was like, I can't believe that that we're going to be late again this year because we don't have all the people in place to do everything that needs to be done. And I'm trying very hard to try to get things out on time.
Well, maybe that financial management system audits it. So.
Uh-oh, phone's ringing.
Oh, that's it. You're in trouble. Is that out of loop?
I don't know.
Okay. Well,
So
then,
just real quickly before we
Yeah.
let you go, the governor's executive order for the mandatory vaccinations, does that apply to your office?
Yes. Well,
Okay.
I applied it to my office. I sent it to my staff and I said I support the governor on this because I want a healthy work site. You know, I mean, I'm 70. I need to make sure that everybody in the office is healthy. And so now we're just waiting for Department of Administration to issue it was supposed to be doing a follow-up on rules and regulations on what to do with employees that did not or refused to vaccinate.
right.
All right.
All right. Thank
Thank you.
I think
If you get pictures of those masks, please send
my
it over.
entire office, except for 2, are vaccinated, I think.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Public Auditor.
Thank you, Speaker.
you.
Thank you.
Enjoy your late
Justice.
night. There you go. 9:58. Good show today, Bree. Miss a link, miss a lot. Hi, Jay.
Man, and there was a lot we went over. Whew.
Yeah. Ooh.
Okay.